anybody else. And so his speechwriters would write these speeches, and he would always go off script and just start winging it. And he always made himself look foolish. So I go with him to this speech at the Brookings Institution. And he's giving the speech, he's reading the speech, and then he goes off topic and he says, you know, I was supposed to be the Secretary of State. I invited Obama over to my house at Christmas.
Stop it.
Uh-huh. And he says, we went for a walk after dinner.
Kerry's saying this.
Uh-huh. And he says, Obama put his arm around my shoulder and he said, John, if you endorse me and if you do it before the Kennedys do it, Secretary of State. And he says, I got screwed out of it. I was supposed to be Secretary of State. So I'm in the front row and I'm going like this.
To him?
Yeah, like discreetly. Like you're off topic and this is not an issue you should be talking about in public. So afterwards he says, I know I shouldn't have said that story. I know And I said, Bill Richardson has exactly the same story. I said, Barack Obama promised half a dozen people that they would be Secretary of State. That's the kind of person he is. He duped all of you guys.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's not like he was telling Bill's story. It's that Obama told this to a bunch of people and didn't keep the promise.
Nope. He lied to everybody.
Unfreaking believable. Now you wonder how much of that is a pattern that happens often.
I wonder. Or if it was specific,
Him.
if he's some kind of sociopath. But I'll tell you, the reason why I started telling you the story is as the investigator, he wouldn't let me investigate anything because he didn't want to piss off Obama. He so desperately wanted to be Secretary of State. So I'm doing like the Dashti Lele massacre in northern Afghanistan. I go to Afghanistan, I go to Dashti Lele, they're like bones sticking out of the ground, still have the clothing on them. I come back, I'm like, we have to investigate this. He's like, you're going to kill that investigation. I said, Senator, you're the one who told me to go on the investigation. Well, you know, it happened a long time ago and all these years have passed and it's time to look forward. And it's like, okay, all right. And then somebody emails me and says, hey, in the new American passports, they have these smart chips in them. I said, yeah, the chips are made in China. I said, seriously? Yeah, you have to investigate it. So I investigate it. I go to state, I go to the manufacturer. All the chips are made in China. And the passports are assembled in Thailand. They're not even assembled in the United States, American passports. So I write up a memo and I said, look, this is potentially a problem. I'm not saying the Chinese have hacked into our passports. I'm saying that this could be a problem. Maybe, just maybe, we should manufacture our own passports in the United States. He's like, don't release that investigation. I said, why not? Well, we don't want to embarrass the White House. I'm like, are you going to let me do anything? I ended up resigning after 2 years. He wouldn't let me do anything because he wanted to be Secretary of State.
Yeah, I mean, he almost became a president until he did the flip-flopping thing. What was it? He went to one place. I don't know when it was, but it was the flip-flopping where it's like, it's over for this guy. He gave two different messages.
He did.
Was he going against Bush? He was going against Bush, right?
Bush in 04.
Right.
And the only reason he didn't become president was Ohio. It was that close.
Didn't they go to Yale together?
Yeah, they went to Yale together.
So what an interesting matchup for both of them to be part of the Skull and Bones. And
yeah, at the same time. And funny enough, because Kerry was supposed to be such an intellectual, Bush's grades were better than Kerry.
Bush's grades were better than Kerry.
It was like an inside joke for us. Let me tell you one other John Kerry thing. The first time I met him, he called me and invited me to come up to the office for a conversation. So I said, oh, I'd love to come up and have a conversation. He was in the Russell Building, which is the historic Senate office building, the oldest one. It's where all the big hearings have been held through history. So I go up there, and you go into his private office with these, 15-foot ceilings, and literally from the floor to the ceiling, covering an entire wall. And it's about the size of your wall here. There were framed pictures of him with every leader in the world, from Gorbachev to the Dalai Lama, everybody that matters. But when you first walk in, right here on the side, there was a credenza. It had 3 things on it that struck me immediately. One was a picture of him in an embrace with John Lennon, and they're like goofing. Very cool. Who wouldn't want a picture of himself with John Lennon like that? Then on the other side, it was a picture of him with Peter, Paul, and Mary, the folk singers. And I knew that they were close, and he gave the eulogy at Mary Travers' funeral. And then in the middle was a shadow box. And in the shadow box, it had his silver star, his bronze stars, and his Purple Heart. But he famously threw those medals over the White House fence to protest the Vietnam War. So I'm looking at that like, what? Like everybody knows, everybody in America knows he threw those medals over the White House fence. So we did the meeting. He offered me the job, and I accepted it. And the chief of staff says, well, how did it go? I said, it went really well. He offered me the job, and I said, yes, but I got a question. I said, the shadow box with the medals. I said, what's up with that? Everybody knows he threw those medals away. And he goes, are you kidding? He said, those medals are the most important things in his life. He went to the PX that morning and he bought copies.
Wow.
And he threw the copies over the White House.
Wow.
I said, nobody in America knows that.
Wow. Has that story been told?
Mm-mm.
Wow. So that was a whole, spectacle
It's
to
all
just
for
get.
show.
Wow.
But it put him on the map. He ran for lieutenant governor of, he ran for Congress and lost, ran for lieutenant governor and won, then ran for Congress and won, and then when Paul Tsongas retired, he became a senator.
Well, he'll go down as one of the biggest heavyweights. He's a heavyweight.
Oh, he's a heavyweight.
On the
Oh, yeah.
Democratic side.
Yes.
And the Bill guy that you were talking about, I think the Bill guy was, I don't know what happened with him, but there was some recent files that came up with him and Epstein, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Yeah,
it broke my heart.
9 times he reached out to Epstein and whatever, even after he was convicted, and he even visited the island. I don't know if including a visit to Epstein's island.
Heartbreaking.
Richardson scheduled meetings with Epstein as late as 2018, according to emails, including a batch of more than 3 million documents released. Yeah, so.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm John Kiriakou, former CIA officer. Please find me on Minect. We have a lot to talk about. CIA, FBI, DOD, torture, secret prisons, international renditions. Maybe you or your child want to apply for a job at the CIA and are looking for some tips. Let me know. There's a lot we can talk about. You pick the subject, we'll make it happen. Again, it's on Minect. Thanks, and I'll see you soon.
How do you handle some of this stuff yourself? Because you spend a lot of time with these guys.
Oh, yeah. I spent a lot of time with these guys. When I was a kid, when I was in college, I used to buy this book every 2 years called The Almanac of American Politics, written by Michael Barone and Brant Fujimori. It's the Bible of American politics, the Almanac of American Politics. There it is. And I was just so thrilled to be in Washington, going to school in Washington every Friday. I never had Friday classes, so every Friday I'd take